Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to touch on something that I've brought up a few times in some of my other videos. So you might have heard me mention that I am looking into like stem cell therapy, regenerative therapy, whatever you want to call it. And I think I'm getting closer to choosing a clinic and that kind of thing. But one thing that I wanted to talk about was just like the things that I've observed, I guess little things that I've picked up from, the different consults that I've had with these clinics. Sort of, I kind of want to play the devil's advocate here because stem cells have been sort of sold to us as this miracle cure. I often refer to stem cells as the medical marijuana for rich people, where, the people that are pushing it believe that it's the magic cure for everything. And so I wanted to sort of bring a little bit of clarity and sort of be the other side, the other side of the argument, because I do think that those of us who are very sick, those of us who have run out of other options, we are desperate, and that's we're the target audience for these clinics. So one of the things that you are going to notice is that they give free evaluations, or they should give you a free consultation. In my opinion, any clinic that is charging you for a consult, I don't want to say that they're sketchy. Things might be different because of the pandemic and because of the economic impact that has had on the clinics, but typically the consult should be free. Keep in mind, these clinics are making thousands of dollars per patient. Stem cell therapies, when you're talking about intravenous stem cells for medical conditions, autoimmune disorders, Lyme disease, whatever, you're looking at 20,000. That's like a starting price, $15,000 to $20,000. So if they're charging you for a consult, then I would really question. I mean, they're probably just really trying to make money, because if they can get you as a patient, they're gonna make a killing off of you. So I have had a couple of clinics that are like, oh, send us the money, send us $80 or whatever, so that we can start the consultation process. And that right away is like a big red flag for me. So I would be very, very careful with that. So one thing that I want to be clear about is that this is a business, right? So no matter what you think, yes, they do have doctors that are trained. And by the way, these therapies are not available in the US. So if you do find a doctor that is doing these therapies here in the US, it's likely illegal. Does that mean that they are bad doctors, or that they are going to hurt you? It doesn't necessarily mean that. I know that there are some doctors that, even though the FDA has sent out warning letters and said, hey, you guys can't use these regenerative therapies, they're still using them. They're being very quiet about it. But, sometimes they do it because they believe in these therapies. But I would be very, very careful with anybody here in the US that's using these therapies. I actually had one clinic that I found. I'm not going to name names, but out here in Southern California, that the doctor was doing stem cells. He was actually doing like stem cell infusions. And just out of curiosity, I did like a consult, or I spoke to their clinic. And I was like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, I didn't know that there were people doing this out here. And they, the receptionist was like, yeah, we do this here. And, he's really good. And after that initial talk that I had with her, she kept calling me. She called me like 2 or 3 times after. After the third time, I stopped talking to her. So when you see that they're very, very aggressive, that's another kind of red flag, because these clinics, one thing I've noticed is that they are trying to sell you a product, but they shouldn't be calling you and calling you and calling you and kind of almost, I don't want to say harassing, but really just bugging you about it, that definitely is a red flag. But on the other side of that, they are trying to sell you a product. This is a business. This is a $1 billion business. So you're going to find these clinics typically in foreign countries. India's a big one, Germany's another one, and here next to the United States, Mexico is a big one. And so typically these therapies are covered under the medical tourism umbrella. Medical tourism includes, dental work, plastic surgery. You've heard of the Brazilian butt lift. That's a big one right now out in Mexico. And of course, stem cell therapy. So it is a $1 billion business, and it's part of tourism. So you've got two big sources of income for Mexico. Let's just focus on Mexico in this example. Two big sources of income. Not only are you going over there for these medical procedures, you're also probably going to go over there on vacation. That's why you'll see places like Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, TJ. These are all the big places where you're going to find medical tourism, because apart from the fact that you're going there for a medical procedure, you can also take a vacation, go to the beach, go to some tourist spots, visit the, pyramids or something, and make it a whole thing. So you have to keep in mind that they need to sell something to you. And one of the reason I kind of know this, and I know this for a fact, is because one of the clinics that I consulted with, and I've done consults with, I think, 4 or 5 clinics, most of them in Mexico. Like I said, a couple here in the US, which is, again, questionable. But there was one clinic, and I will have a video that talks about some of the kind of weirder stuff behind this clinic. But I did see that they had a CFO, basically, I believe that's a chief financial officer. They had him for a while. He's no longer working there. And basically what these CFOs do when they come into the company is they try to increase revenue. And I actually found this guy's information on LinkedIn, and that's exactly what he did for this stem cell clinic. He went there. He was there for probably, I think, like 5 or 6 years. His goal was to increase their revenue, to get them from whatever they were making to a certain, millions of dollars. And that was his job. So that's one thing that you need to know, is that these clinics are a business. They have targets that they need to meet. And the only way that they can meet those targets is by getting people into their clinic and performing these procedures or infusions or whatever. It is rare that they will turn, in my opinion, it's rare that they're going to turn away a patient. There are 2 primary disqualifying factors that I have seen. One of them is if you have a history of cancer, that automatically disqualifies you, because I think the stem cells can predispose you to getting cancer again, or they can multiply those cancer cells. So that is an automatic no if you have any history of cancer. And then also too, if you're like a smoker and you're going for a treatment to help your lungs, but you're not willing to give up smoking, then they're going to tell you like, hey, no, we can't do this. But other than that, I don't think there really is much that they're going to tell you that they're going to turn you away for. That's one thing that I've noticed, is that they're, you fill out this like form online before you do the consult to see if they approve you for the treatment. And obviously they approve you for the treatment. 9 times out of 10, I would say that they approve you for treatment. Like I said, as long as you didn't have cancer I think is the big one. So it's really, when you get that approval, where they send you the email and they're like, yes, you've been approved, schedule your consult. Listen, you're not special. They're gonna approve as many people as they possibly can, because like I said, they have a certain amount of money that they need to bring into the clinic. So the other thing, speaking of that, of the clinics that I've consulted with, I think I consulted with 3 or 4 stem cell clinics or clinics that do use stem cells in their treatments. Only one doctor actually expressed some kind of concern and said that she wasn't too familiar with my diagnosis or with one of my diagnoses, and that she really needed to look into it more. And not only was I very surprised, because like I said, they're not going to turn away patients for any reason, but I was actually very impressed, because you have to keep in mind that they are losing thousands of dollars, up to $20,000, $30,000 per patient. And right now we're in the middle of, we're still in a pandemic. Granted, we're probably coming out of the worst part of it, but that's money. So to have a doctor tell me, look, I really need to think about this a little bit more. I really need to, look into this further, and to basically kind of let go of that money, it was very impressive to me. And I was actually, she didn't try to sell it to me. She did not give me a quote. She did not give me even a treatment plan. And I will tell you that that's just not common. And I trust a doctor that would do that more than I would trust, the clinic that called me, 3 or 4 times until I just stopped picking up. So do they show concern for outcomes, right? Are they honest about negative outcomes? Only one doctor, this same doctor, told me that she has had some negative outcomes with some of her patients that have similar diagnoses to me. She's the only one. The other clinics kind of have this roundabout way of saying, well, we need to look at your blood work, and, as long as you don't have this, it's, this is very safe, that kind of thing. They have a very roundabout way of not really telling you it's not going to help you, or it actually could hurt you. It's just like, well, we need to look at your blood work, right? And the only way they can look at your blood work is by you already being over there. By the time you get over there to Cancun or wherever, I mean, what are you going to say? Don't do it. Don't do the treatment. I'm already paying thousands of dollars just to be here, right? So, that's one thing that I noticed, is that it's not common for these doctors to tell you, look, this could go very wrong. And so when a doctor does tell you that, you can tell the doctor has integrity. On top of that, you're going to notice it's these clinics, maybe not all of them, but some of them will already have a front-loaded reason why the treatment may not work. So you might look like on their social media, or they might do a webinar or whatever, and there's already like a reason. Why don't these therapies work? Well, because sometimes the patient is non-compliant. They go back home and they feel great, but they go back to their old habits. Or, like I said before, blood work showed something that they didn't know was there, and that's why the treatment failed, right? They didn't follow up with their physical therapy. Every body is different, right? That's a foolproof excuse, because they can just say, well, everyone is different. We had a patient that did really, really well, that had the same medical condition you had, but you, for whatever reason, did not respond well. Also, environmental factors. I've heard that one as well. They go back to their home, in the US, and they're surrounded by all these environmental issues, pollution, bad diet, stress, electricity, whatever. And, they're always going to have some kind of reason. And it's never going to be them. It's never going to be that their therapy failed or that they did something wrong. It's always going to be you. So just keep that in mind. So one of the things that you really need to ask yourself, also too, some of these clinics will have a quote for you. They will have a quote ready for you. As soon as you ask and you say, hey, how much is this going to cost? Boom, they're going to have a quote. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to feel like the treatment is customized for you and for your condition. It's not. One of these clinics, they work with autistic kids a lot, and they have a separate clinic for adult patients. And I already knew how much they were charging autistic patients. So I asked them for a quote, and it was the exact same thing. And what they do for autistic patients is a lot more invasive. There's actually hospitalization involved, cell banking, and all of that, yet the price was the same. Don't think that these treatments are going to be customized for your specific condition. They're just going to give you whatever they're going to give you, and because there are no clinical trials, there's no standard of treatment with stem cell therapy in your specific condition, because it has not been studied very well for a variety of conditions yet. So you're not going to get a customized treatment, which can also affect your outcomes. So just go into it knowing that. So a few of the questions to ask yourself: are you willing to lose that money? Right? Are you willing to lose $20,000, $30,000 on a treatment that isn't going to do anything, or on a treatment that may be temporary? Are you willing to feel like garbage when they tell you that it's your fault that it didn't work? You're not going to get your money back. These treatments are not covered by insurance. There's no money back guarantee. This is a very foolproof business model for these clinics. They're going to get their money whether you get better or not. And let me tell you, they make a lot of money. Look up horror stories. That's one thing that I've been doing, and they'll probably be the first ones to tell you not to do it. But that is something that I've been doing. Looking up the horror stories, all the things that can go wrong, and lots of things can go wrong. And ask yourself if you're willing to take that risk. Are you at a place in your life where you're just like, you know what? I have no other options. I'm getting sicker and sicker. I don't see any big loss, right? You know, that's sort of where I'm headed, where I kind of think to myself, if I don't do something, I'm only going to get worse. If I do something, I could still get worse. I'm headed in the same direction. So what do I have to lose? So ask yourself, are you willing to run the risk of developing tumors, of becoming septic if the product is not clean? Are you willing to lose all that money on getting sicker, right? Paying $20,000 to become even more sick. And also too, if it does work, are you willing to maintain that, to maintain your improvement? Because if you're not, then that's also a waste of money. You're still going to have to stick to a diet and a healthy lifestyle. This isn't a magic bullet on its own. And I think a lot of people really believe that it is, or they want to believe that it is, and it's not. And like I said, they're going to use it as a reason for treatment failure if it does not work. So, you know, I would try to give them as few reasons as possible to not take responsibility for, you know, their own treatments. So my last thing to add here is, you know, I have a lot of other points that I may do just another video because this one's going to run a little bit long. But my doctor has no financial interest in this. And that's what makes her a trusted source of information. I've done consults with these clinics. They're going to sell it to you sweet. They're going to tell you that they've helped people like you before, or that you're a candidate for this treatment. But you need to have a neutral party. And I'm fortunate enough that I have a doctor that is knowledgeable about these things, but has no financial interest. And so, you know, I went to my doctor after my first, 2 or 3 consults, and I said, look, this is what the deal is. And she said, hey, I'm going to tell you why, stem cell therapy could fail and why it's not as effective as maybe some other therapies. And she gave me the facts, and I gave them back I actually followed up with I think a couple of these clinics and said, hey, my doctor's telling me this. So one of the things that you do have to do is pick their brains, meet them with their own science, because they know the science behind this, and they're not going to tell it to you. For example, 50% of the stem cells get caught in the lungs. So you're not getting all of these stem cells, all of these millions and millions that they're telling you that you're getting. 50% get stuck in the lungs, and the other 50% go where? And these clinics rely on your ignorance because that's how they're going to sell you this therapy. You don't know the difference. You have no idea. That's called pulmonary entrapment. It's incredibly common, and it's an issue with stem cell therapy. They're not going to tell you that. None of these clinics told me that. And they also don't cross into the blood-brain barrier. None of these clinics told me that until I went to my doctor. She told me. I went back to them, and they agreed. They agreed, but they said, yes, but. So sometimes you do kind of have to pick their brains and meet them with their own science and see what they say. Because that's what they're depending on, you not knowing what you're doing, because that's usually who these treatments are sold to. People that are not consulting with a doctor, because doctors over here are not, more likely than not, an American doctor is going to tell you not to do stem cell therapy because it's experimental. It hasn't been very well studied. So I would definitely consult with your doctor, with a neutral party that has no financial interest, if you have some kind of doctor here in the United States that can do that for you. I'm fortunate that I have one, but I know that there aren't very many out here. Take a what's the word I want to use? The temperature of these doctors. How are they talking to you? Are they arrogant? Are they telling you that they just want to help you? I'm just here to help you, right? We just want to help. Or are they just giving you the facts? Are they arrogant? Are they, polite? Those are other things that I've picked up on a little bit with some of these doctors. But I don't want this video to go on too long. I may just have to do a part 2 as I go deeper and deeper into this, because it's fascinating. I will say that it's very fascinating, but I have noticed some things that do kind of bother me. Ethical issues, and just sort of the way that these therapies are marketed to Americans, because we don't have that here. So we're a big market for these countries, because we can't get that done here, and there's a reason for that. So I hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up. If you guys want a part 2, let me know. I do have some more notes here. Check out my other video too. I think it's called Lurking and Chronic Illness. I know it sounds very unrelated, but it's really cool. A lot of the things that I have found out about some of these clinics, just by Googling and digging into their social media. There's a lot of things that are kind of, even of some reputable clinics. There's a weird underworld in the stem cell universe. So check out my other videos, and I will be back again soon with more good stuff. All right, guys, take care.